Hello and welcome to the Supercast. I'm your host, Superintendent Anthony Godfrey. They are in our schools and classrooms making a big difference every single day. On this episode of the Supercast, what it means to participate in PTA and why our schools simply wouldn't be the same without these incredible parent volunteers. We're here at the Utah PTA offices talking with two members of the executive committee. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to talk about PTA.
Hi, I'm Stacey Mollinet. I'm the president of Utah PTA, and I live in Layton.
I'm Leanne Wood. I'm the advocacy vice president, and I live in Kaysville.
And I'm also on the executive committee. I've served as the administrator representative, and I love being a part of it. And I have to say, I'm blown away at the time that you put in, the dedication and the knowledge. You guys know so much about what's going on in the state, and it's been really exciting for me to be part of it. Stacey, start off just talking about what got you involved in PTA, kind of your PTA journey.
I just wanted to be involved with my kids at their school. I just wanted to volunteer in the classroom, help out, help enhance their education. And along the way, I got to know their teachers. I found out that I was helping more than just my own child, and I got to know the administration, and I just really liked being in the schools.
How about you, Leanne?
Well, I'm a little bit more selfish than that. I had a son on the autism spectrum and didn't know it at the time. He started school and we had a lot of issues. And I found that through PTA, I could get some parent training if I was to volunteer. And I needed all the help I could get. And so I volunteered in order to get some parent training. And along the way, I just found a community of people who really wanted to reach out and help others and cared about children. And so it helped my child, and then it turned into hoping to help thousands of children over the last 25 years.
And you're right, you really do get to know a ton of great people when you become involved with PTA at the school level, at the region level, and at the state level. And the state level is why I'm here talking with you. First of all, most people don't even realize that there is a state office, like there's an actual building. I didn't realize that until I was on the committee and came by. Tell us a little bit about the office, where it is, and how long it's been here.
We're at 53rd South Exit, just off of I-15. We used to have a building on South Temple that was previously owned by David O. McKay, and that building got too small. The parking wasn't very good. It was a little bit leaky and whatever. So we traded it in about 20 years ago.
Yeah. And
so we've been here at 53rd South for about 20 years, and we own the building outright, so we don't have the expenses of rent or anything like that.
One of the things that has stood out to me as I've attended conventions over the years is this idea that when PTA works together, PTA can accomplish things that families may not be able to accomplish on their own, or schools may not be able to accomplish on their own. So there's a synergy when everyone works together. What are some of the positive outcomes you've seen from the work that PTA does in the schools?
I think that really leads to the mission of PTA, which is to empower and engage families and communities to advocate for every child. And so when our parents understand the needs of the school, and I think it first starts with what are the needs of our children, and then does it expand there when they work with the principal and say, what are the true needs of our children here in this school? And then they can add on to it. So do they, do they need to increase reading scores? Okay, how can we do that? Do we do it through a book night? Do we get books in the hands of every child? Do we have a reading night? Do we teach parents how to better connect with their children when reading to them to give them skills? And so I think it's looking at what the needs are, and then how can PTA fill in those gaps through our volunteerism, through our community efforts.
That's great, and I think part of what happens is that there's a sense of community that's built through PTA, and without a sense of community, education doesn't really work. So I really can't imagine doing it without PTA and without the support of parents. Tell me about the organization at the state level. I think a lot of people may not understand exactly how that works.
Okay, well, we have an executive committee with president, president-elect, treasurer, secretary, and director of membership, director of leadership, director of communications, admin rep, teacher rep, And all of these people work together, advocacy vice president, regions vice president. All these people work together. We have region directors that represent every school district in the state, and we have commissioners. And the commissioners do tons of advocacy and bring resources to the parents. And we meet and train a lot. We do a lot of advocacy, and Leanne can talk more about that. And we bring these resources and this training to the local parents at each of the local schools.
I think that's one of the huge advantages of having PTA involved, is that there's so much support. There's so much training. I've called you a couple of times, Stacey, on some issues, and every time the PTA president that we were working with had great training and knew exactly what to do. So it's a comfort to me as a superintendent to know that there are these trainings and resources available for parents and for those who are officers in PTA. And I think that's one of the great things, is that there's just so much help out there for you. Now, you mentioned advocacy. We received in Utah an advocacy award on a national level. Tell me about that, Leanne.
Well, we had one of our commissioners send in an application and wanted people to nominate us and let them know what we were doing at the state level. And some of the things that he recognized as he shared our story was that we had helped through a campaign keep the nicotine levels in e-cigarettes at a very low percentage to help prevent substance abuse through our youth. And we were a big part of that in the state. Another thing he wanted to recognize through us, we actually got a resolution through the legislature last year to celebrate 125 years of PTA. This organization started in 1897, and we actually had 2 or 3 women from Salt Lake at that meeting in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
That were there to start, and through the advocacy efforts at the national level, we have our juvenile justice laws, we have our hot lunch program, we have kindergarten. So for 125 years, this organization has sustained looking at what are the needs of our children. And so we just continue that work. And so it was exciting to be recognized. We put in a lot of hours. We have 7 commissioners who are up at the Capitol throughout the entire session, and they're following bills that we advocate in terms of the whole child, safety, health, individual development, education. We have a legislative advocacy committee, which we had over 40 parents sitting in a weekly meeting throughout the session last year, or in this last spring session, every week for 2 hours. Over 40 parents listening to what bills were going to impact children and determining our positions on those bills. And so it's really this across the state effort of looking at what's happening and what are the decisions being made by our legislators or our school board members, and how can we make sure that the best thing's happening for children. And so it was exciting. We got recognized for the work that we do.
Well, congratulations. It's well deserved. I've watched you as advocacy vice president do a ton of great work at the state level. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that happens, and that's partially why I wanted to do this, is so that people could see just some of the work that goes into providing that support. And I love the combination that PTA provides. There's great support at the state and national level for the work that you do, for running the finances, to making sure that you're having an impact at your school. And then at the same time, the real impact is at the local school level as well. So there are all these different levels at which you can make an impact. Stay with us. When we come back, more on the positive impact of PTA and information about a big statewide PTA event that is expected to attract hundreds.
Does your child simply love learning online? The Jordan Virtual Learning Academy is tuition-free and open to all K-12 students in Utah. We offer a choice for parents and have the very best teachers who simply love teaching online. Start your child on the path to personalized learning today and enroll now by visiting virtual.jordandistrict.org. That's virtual.jordandistrict.org.
PTA is very positive. How does PTA help parents address concerns they may have at the school level?
PTA really promotes positive parent engagement. It's going through the right processes and having parents understand, when I have an issue, who do I go to? Finding that solution closest to the problem. So we don't need a law. If there's a problem in a classroom, we need a conversation with a teacher or a principal.
So I want to talk a little bit about the local level. Sometimes people are afraid that if they get involved in PTA, they're going to suddenly be the president. What advice do you have for people who may be a little bit too hesitant to get involved at the local level?
We need people with all time abilities, whether they can just join and not even help, or whether they can join and help just a little bit, or whether they can eventually become the president. And just because you join PTA doesn't mean you're going to be the president of PTA. It is there's just a need for parents to get involved, to know what's going on in their classrooms and in with their students. And joining doesn't mean that you have to even volunteer, but we'd love to have volunteers. We need parents to be involved in their students' lives and in their classrooms.
If you join, you don't have to volunteer, and if you volunteer, you don't have to be president.
Right.
And even though the two of you started out small, as you described, nobody dragged you kicking and screaming to be the Utah State PTA president.
Right.
That happens only by your own free will. So nobody's going to force you into anything. But like you demonstrated, it does get pretty addictive when you see the impact that you can have.
Yeah, it is so cool to be in there and see the aha moments of the kids as you're helping them with their times tables or you're helping them read a book. It's just, that's what's addictive, is coming back and helping again.
I have had the chance throughout my life to see the impact of PTA. It's incredible. I went to a jogathon just a couple of weeks ago, and it brought parents together, it brought students together. I got to have an otter pop after the jogathon, but more than anything, it raised money, it pulled people together. The way it was formatted, you were supposed to think of a hero that you're running for. I mean, it was great. There were so many great layers to the activity. And I still have the PTA award that I got when I was, I think, 6 years old for a story that I wrote. It was printed out with a ditto machine. Many listeners won't know what that is. I'm not going to explain it to you, but it's been a positive impact for a long time. And I love the idea that you can just sign up. Anything you can do at any level is going to help. And if you do volunteer, it can just be one time or a little bit here and there, just whatever you can do at the local level.
I think also just the membership gives you access to information.
Yeah.
I remember talking to a teacher. I was at an event on a Saturday, and I had been putting out some weekly updates of the session of education bills that were coming out. And this teacher commented, "Thank you so much for that information. When I'm in the classroom, I really can't keep track of what's going on up at the Capitol. So your just weekly updates have just helped me understand what bills are going to impact students, what bills are going to impact teachers." And there's another teacher at this event, and she said, "Well, I haven't gotten that update. How do I get that update?" And I said, "Well, what school are you at?" That happened to be a non-PTA school, and I said, "I'm sorry, I don't have access to your teachers. I don't have access. So I'm sending it to those people who, are PTA members." And so I think it gives information that they are kind of being left out of just by being a member. You have access to great things that are happening across the state through our community partners. We have commissioners that I think I counted up, we're on over 35 committees statewide. in areas of substance abuse, mental health protections, all those things that you think, oh, our kids are struggling with right now. We have someone that's got a seat at the table to talk about how we can help kids in that manner.
It's fantastic. There is a lot of great information if you're a member. So if someone isn't a member, what do they need to do to sign up?
They can just go to utahpta.org/join, and there's a link there, and they can join their local PTA. They can contact their school, their office, and ask how they can join or how they can get involved. And joining PTA is not just for moms. Some people think it's just for moms. But dads and grandparents also can join PTA and can get involved. Getting dads come in the school, even just one day during the year, really makes a big impact on kids.
Statistically, there is research that if
Yes.
dads show up at school, it makes a big impact for their child.
Yes.
I think that sometimes people maybe think too narrowly about what's happening with PTA. You mentioned it earlier, Leanne, and you talked about it as well, Stacey, just the breadth of things that are happening even at the school level. Reading nights and books, it's not just about a fundraiser. There are so many things that are available to students because of PTA. And there are any number of times as a principal, I thought, okay, PTA, that's the way I can get help with this.
I think another myth is sometimes I get told with my advocacy efforts, stay in your lane, meaning, you're in your school, only on education, and our lane is children. And
Right.
So whatever that means, so whether it's arts programs, whether it's, substance abuse prevention, that is our lane. If
Right.
it's going to help children, that's our lane.
Well, and that's what I have learned, especially since I've been involved at the state level, just how much work is done more broadly to help support children and support families. So congratulations on the award and on the great work that you've been doing behind the scenes, because I know people are not thanking you enough for that. Speaking of advocacy, we have an event coming up that PTA members can be involved in that can really jumpstart advocacy efforts. So tell us about that, Leanne.
All right, so on November 9th from 9 to 2, and it's actually being held here in Jordan School District, so we're
Yes.
excited. Thank you for offering your building up. They'll be at Mountain Ridge High School. We have our annual advocacy conference. It's held every fall, and the thing I love about this conference is it's our commissioners have been attending all these meetings throughout the year, with our community partners, interim at the legislature, and they see what are the most critical needs of Utah's children right now. And then we bring in speakers and presenters to help parents understand what those needs are and maybe offer some solutions. So our theme for this year is Strong Families Build Strong Students. And we know with research, when you have an engaged family, we have children who are in school, they're more likely to graduate, they have fewer absences, they have higher grades. Everything is better when our parents and our educators are working together. So if we can focus on strong families, build strong students, we're super excited. We have 2 keynote speakers. I don't know if you're familiar with BYU TV's Relative Race. We have JD Barnes, who was a contestant on that reality TV show, but
Right.
they take DNA and then
Oh, yeah, I've heard
mix
about
them
it. Yeah.
and they connect them to family they didn't know they had.
Oh,
And
wow.
so here he never knew his biological family, and it was a way to connect to family members. And so he's going to talk about the overcoming challenges through family connections, past and present. So talking about the family he grew up in and the new family he's met, and
Wow.
how that has helped him in his life. And then we have Dr. Ali Crandall from BYU coming, and she's going to talk about what are ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences, and then what are counter ACEs, so those things that can kind of combat. We all have trauma in our life. Maybe it's little, maybe it's huge, but our children deal with things on a day-to-day basis. And so those are kind of those traumatic experiences. But what can we do? What preventions can we put in place in our families to help combat when bad things happen? And we've had the last 2 years, bad things happen, but how can we make them more resilient? How can we set them up for success? So I'm really excited about those 2 speakers. And then we have 6 breakout sessions that people can choose 2 from, and building strong families through family engagement, digital wellness, different community resources, mental health strategies, through the Utah education standards. when you're down at the kitchen table, do you
Right.
know what your children are supposed to be learning?
Yeah.
And can you talk to them about that? And then through positive civic engagement, we're in an election. How do we get our kids understanding the importance of voting when they become adults, of becoming an educated voter? So, super excited. And everyone's invited. It's not just for PTA members, but we would love. It's $15, lunch is included, and I think it'll be a great day, and you'll learn a lot.
$15 with lunch included is a bargain, to say the least. How do people sign up?
Just through utahpta.org. They go on there. It's right on our front page, and they can click the register button. And
what's the deadline for registration?
November 3rd.
So almost right up to the event, you can still sign up.
Yep.
So get signed up. It's going to be a great event. PTA never does anything halfway, so it's going to be awesome.
And there will be a virtual option. We're working on that.
Great.
But if you can't come down to Harriman, it's a little far away for some of our outskirts. For $5, you can have access to the classes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today and for all the hard work you do to elevate families, elevate children, and to help schools be at their best.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Supercast. Remember, education is the most important thing you'll do today. We'll see you out there.